Good morning. Happy Friday. I hope you have on 2 pairs of long johns if you live anywhere near me. Holy sweet Jesus, is it cold out there. And windy, windy. So TJ was not lingering out there today, which may be a little interesting because we're headed for Madison to work on the house we're flipping there, and he'll be home for a while by himself. So hopefully he has a really good bladder. Good morning, Carolyn. Glad you are here. Welcome. So I'm excited about today's part of the book. We're back to Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. And we are on chapter 9, I believe it is. Yep, chapter 9. And so what I thought I would do is kind of give an overview of the chapter because there's a lot of stuff in there. Good morning, Cindy. Glad you're here. Welcome. You and Carolyn are always Johnny on the spot here. So I really appreciate you popping on every morning. So I'm going to give an overview of that chapter, and then I'm just going to read the first part because it is so, it's a story, a vignette, which I love those because, again, they just help the message sink in so much easier. Good morning, Beth. Welcome. Glad you are here. And gives us something to kind of chew on in terms of processing the information. But I think the overview is also going to be helpful because then you have a sense of what's coming whenever the book is what we're going to be working on for a particular day for our YEMIG. So yes, holy cow, chilly. And then the breeze, we'll call it a breeze, wind. It is wind, people. Yeah, it was not pleasant out there. So, excuse me. And we're supposed to get a little bit of snow just for an hour. And just have more descending into the cold. So, but that actually is first of all, it's what's meant to be happening this time of year. We've been so weird with our weather. But it's also time to go within. And the going within is a huge part of what what keeps us learning, growing, moving forward. Yes, windy. Yeah, it's windy. Gale force winds, but windy. Yeah. So, yes, it is January. Absolutely. And this is more normal. This is what we typically would expect in January instead of that balmy, no snow, whatever that was. That was interesting. What else do I want to say? I know Cindy's doing this also. I don't know if any of the rest of you are. I had mentioned it the first day that Tony Robbins is doing a free webinar every day. It's a couple of hours. I mean, and this is long, but yesterday I wanted, Cindy, I'm interested to know if you actually signed up. I signed up he's going to be doing Unleash Your Power seminar online in March. And it's 12-hour days for 4 days online. Sometimes I do Zoom for, 3-4 hours in a row and I'm ready to run screaming into the night. But this is a very different process, what he does. So I think it will be life-changing. Every time I've dealt with his stuff in the past, and I've been doing his stuff for decades, it's life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. Not yet, you're still pondering. I know, it's long, but I think it's going to be amazing. And my daughter just got a new job, and if she hadn't just gotten a new job, I would buy it for her also, because I think it is just going to be amazing. Good morning, Tammy. Glad you are here. And of course, know that the things that I'm learning in that, good morning, Susan. Welcome. Things that I'm learning in that webinar, I'm paying money for it, but it's going to trickle through to all of you anyway, because that's just how this stuff works. I read a book, you learn about it. I watch a webinar, you learn about it. I have an insight, you learn about it. So, and I had an amazing insight yesterday on that call, which I think is going to vastly change the interactions that I have with my sister, which I am very excited about. And I'm going to have a test drive today because we're going to work on one of the houses we're flipping. So I'll let you know tomorrow how it goes. But for today, We are on Taking the War Out of Our Words, the Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. We are on chapter 9. Now we're into the formats for making these non-defensive statements. How do we do this, right? So here's much more of the how-to, which I like. So this first part here, that is what I'm going to focus on today, is a story sharing about a couple's fight and the various segments of what they are doing. But she talks about there being 4 formats. So let me read through them, and then I'll tell you that that's what she's actually going to be describing in the remainder of the chapter. Format 1, when we are attempting to come back from a fight with somebody, it conveys our understanding of the overt message, the message literally being sent, our understanding of it. Remember, someone says something, but it's coming through our filters. So we want to share back to that person how we filtered it, all right? So we can see if we're spot on or if we're way out in left field. And oftentimes we are out in left field somewhere. Format 2 describes our perception of any covert message. Because again, we come to a conversation, we come to a fight, we come to an interaction, dragging all of our baggage with us, schlepping that whole bag of history, beliefs, wounds, etc. with us. And so then we convey to the other person not only what the overt message, what they did say, what we think they said, but the covert message. What did they mean by that? Okay? Format 3 describes any additional meaning we attach to the message, such as an underlying cause or motive. So yeah, I'll just make one up. You were way overtired, and that's why everything went kerflooey. Much more eloquently and much less accusatory would be how it comes across. And then the 4th format is expressing our own reactions to it, because that's where we then can convey our baggage, what all got mixed into the soup of what then became our reaction. All right. So over the course of however many times we tackle this chapter, there's going to be interpreting the overt message, interpreting the covert message, and it's pulling on a lot of the parts that we've already talked about in the book, interpreting cause or motive, and then expressing our reactions and integrity to this. Oh, hang on a second.
I'm gonna run over and get stuff.
Okay, good. You're on Zoom. All right. So, that was my dad. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to give you the overview of this stuff with the story. And I love that she does that, because again, it just makes it so much easier for me when there's a story. So here's the story. Let's take some breaths first. Just kind of settle in, almost like little kids getting ready to get their story read to us at bedtime. Nice deep breath in and out. And another one in and out. All right, ready for our story. For months, Jamal and Renee had been remodeling the old house they bought some years earlier. They had discovered extensive dry rot in the floors, walls, and part of the ceilings, all of which had to be torn out and replaced. I know this one. Late one Friday evening, they stood amid a huge pile of debris and watched the construction crew leave. On Monday, another crew would arrive to begin rebuilding. Jamal and Renee had decided to haul the rubbish to the dump themselves in order to save money, but there was more than they had ever imagined. Old pieces of insulation had cascaded down from the rafters, piled up 2 feet deep on the bathroom floor, and floated through the house like sea foam on the wind. She's so poetic. Yes, I can see this mess, and I can laugh about it, because this isn't a current mess we're dealing with. We have other messes. Let's see. With the crew gone, Renee began shoveling the insulation into a wheelbarrow, but trying to catch and carry the foam made her feel crazy. After struggling to get the first load out to the canopied truck, she came in, leaned against what was left of the living room wall, slid down into a heap on the floor, and announced, "Jamal, we've got to take a break." The conversation, which escalated into sneering and shouting, and is this ringing a bell for anybody? Sneering and shouting continued as follows. Renee, Let's just go to the beach for the weekend and deal with this when we come home. Jamal, are you crazy? No way. We have to clean this mess up before the next crew gets started on Monday. Good morning, Gwen. Renee, you're always so damned responsible. Jamal, I am not. I just don't run away when there's a job to be done. After this blow-up, they both stormed around and resumed working in angry silence. About a half hour later, Renee began a conversation. Renee, will you talk to me about this? Jamal, okay, but I don't know what good it's going to do. Renee, well, I don't either, but we can't just go on this way. Jamal, oh, why not? And he laughs. I don't see how we are ever going to agree. Renee, well, I'd like to start by each of us just saying what we think without trying to solve anything. And I'm going to add on there, or convince the other person, right? You're just speaking your truth. That's it. They had been working on communicating non-defensively. Jamal agreed to Renee's idea and asked her to go first. Renee, well, what I think you're telling me is that we have to keep working all weekend, and that my need to have a break means I am irresponsible and not really committed to our remodeling project. It sounds like you think we have no choice but to work right into next week without any break. I'm watching you clench and unclench your jaw so fast it looks like you are chewing gum, and you have dark circles under your eyes. I think you are exhausted, totally stressed out, and don't know how to stop. I know I am. And she started to cry. I am going to blow if I have to work all weekend and then face even more next week. I want to scream. I don't have any reserves left, and I don't know how I can cope if I don't get away from all of this and relax for a little while. Jamal took his turn next. Jamal, it sounds like you think I'm just being compulsive about wanting to keep working and that I demand too much of you as well. And that the only reason I keep working is because I can't stop myself. And I think you are saying we need immediate relief even if we don't get this garbage to the dump. I don't understand where you got the idea that I think you aren't committed to the project, because I believe you are. But I do get the feeling you just want to escape from this mess without thinking about the consequences. I don't think you are considering how much stress we will be under if this rubbish isn't cleaned up when the crew gets here Monday. I can't even imagine how horrible that would be. That's what I couldn't cope with. If we just leave, I could never relax. I'd worry the whole weekend about how in the hell are we going to get it all done when we got back. Okay, so they both spoken their truth. At the outset of this conflict, Jamal and Renee had both stated their own opinion as fact. Okay, and that's one of the things, remember, that we're working toward. When we say our opinion, it needs to be our opinion, not as if it's carved in stone and everybody would agree with me, and sometimes we pull in other, Jane would agree with me, just to bolster up our argument. Each was trying to convince the other about the best course of action. When this failed, they hurled accusations, then withdrew in mute anger. Arguing in this way, they did not find, probably could not have found a genuinely satisfying solution. And I go back to Albert Einstein. You cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. So they're still in the state of exhaustion. They're not going to be able to generate a solution from that state, okay? When they decided to make non-defensive statements, they changed their entire dynamic. So they changed their state, and then things can begin to move forward. They spoke with feeling, but without defensive anger. The rage that flares when we are determined to make others see how wrong they are, prove our point at any cost, and then hurl blame when we can't get through to them. And that was my insight from the Tony Robbins thing yesterday. I'm trying to get to get through to two people who think incredibly differently than I do. My dad and my sister Vicky think very much alike. Very much like. I think much more like my mother. So I'm the overly optimistic person. Yes, this will work. Let's do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're the, how are we going to do this? I have no idea how to fix this. These are the tools I have. These are the only tools I'm willing to use, etc., etc. They're not going to want to think outside the box. They're not going to want to try something different. All right? And then I get incredibly frustrated because I feel like they're blowing me off, that they think I'm stupid, my opinion doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. The whole narrative, right? Okay? What I came to realize doing the process yesterday was I am trying to get dogs to be a cat. It ain't going to work. It just ain't going to work. So I have to take a whole different tack with this thing. But what it did was it let me let go of that story of nobody listens to me. That's old. That's crap. That's way worn out. Let's let go of that, right? So here we are. By exchanging information and getting out of the power struggle over who was right, which is exactly what we need to do, they were able to find a crucial point of agreement: the need to relieve stress. Okay? There's another man named Gudjon Bergman who does a whole lot of stuff in this realm. And he talks about finding the commonality, finding the common ground underneath the argument. So in this case, the need to relieve stress. Where the argument happens is the how are we going to do that? That's where they disagree. But if they can drop to that level of we both agree we need to relieve the stress, then they can start moving forward. Okay? In their last exchange, Jamal and Renee used 4 specific non-defensive formats that will be presented in the remainder of the chapter. The first 3 convey as completely as possible our subjective interpretation of the other person's statement. Format 1 conveys our understanding of the overt message. Format 2 conveys our perception of any covert message, what's hidden underneath but still operating. Format 3 describes any additional meaning we attach to the message, such as underlying cause or motive. Then, Format 4 expresses our own reactions. Okay? The first 3 formats comprise our translation, our perception, assumption, interpretation, understanding of that person's message through the lens of our own experience. They are our observations regarding the other person's meaning. As with non-defensive question, all feedback through these interpretive statement formats must be neutral in tone. That's our challenge. That's the hard part. When you're already lit up like a Christmas tree, and oftentimes we then do need to take a break. So they went and stormed around and huffed and puffed for a while, and then she was able to approach him in a more neutral way. Could we have a conversation about this? Let's see. If we inject such observations with our own feelings, they become more like accusatory judgments. Only the 4th format goes beyond translation to our reaction. These formats enable us to make a position statement. We convey thorough information while minimizing the tendency to state opinions as fact, persuade others to agree, or level them with harsh judgments. Wow, huh? Wow. This is some awesome stuff. So, what I'd like you to do today is think of a circumstance where this is the kind of crap that played out. It may be ancient history. I don't care if it happened 20, 30 years ago. If it's still good grist for the mill, mine it up, all right? And what we're going to do with that example, whatever one you come up with, is now we'll move through all of these sections and label the pieces, okay? Good morning, Peggy. We're just about done for today, but I'll post the video shortly so you can go back and watch it. Glad you're here. I'm so excited that all of us are practicing this stuff. And I kind of giggle because there's 8 of us on this call, well, 9 with me included. And so eight of you out in the world practicing this stuff, seeing what you can get for results. And I watched the Tony Robbins thing. He had 1.4 million people on the call last night. 1.4 million. Think about the impact of that. All of those people, even if they only make one little inkling of change. Over time, amazing, amazing, amazing. He actually did talk about compound interest. He was talking about money stuff, some money stuff yesterday. And he did this amazing comparison between someone who, and I took a picture of the graphic because it was really cool. I don't think I can share it because it's probably copyrighted material. But the gist of it was, when someone starts saving young, even if they quit saving. So in this case, the graphic was the young man started saving at 18, I believe. $300 a month. He quit, yes, and from 195 countries. Yes, yes, yes. And yes, it would be lovely if our politicians did this work. But I recall a seer saying that politicians typically are young souls. Very young souls. They're not the wisdom leaders. And even when we have someone who's a statesperson, oftentimes they're young souls. So what we expect of them may be quite the stretch. Good morning, Diane. I'm glad you're here. We're just about done. Now I've got about 3 threads I got to pick up here and finish up. Anyway, back to Tony Robbins. So that many people out there practicing this stuff. This is what creates the ripple. This is what creates the wave. Again, now there's 10 of us here learning this stuff, going out today and practicing a little bit. Even if you're just thinking about it, some of it's going to leak into your behavior, right? So people then will be influenced by this, which is awesome. If one of us doesn't take the bait today when someone else provokes a fight, voila. How awesome is that? That is amazing. That is fabulous. So, I'm trying to think of the loose ends I didn't finish up. Some of you, I'm sure, are waiting for the ends of stories on some of those. Can you shoot me a message so I know what I have to finish up here? That is hilarious. And again, even if you make an attempt to make a change and it doesn't exactly go well, don't worry about it. You change the energy. Compound interest. Thank you, Cindy. I knew someone would have tracked me. Usually I'm pretty good at circling back and picking up all my loose ends. So this kid's 18 years old, starts saving $300 a month, decides at 27 he's not going to save anymore. But he leaves that money in there and he doesn't touch it. The other friend sees this guy stop at 27 years old. He starts saving $300 a month until he is 65. Okay? So the first guy only saved for 8 years. The other guy saved for a significant, how many? I can't do math right now. 40 years? Whatever. Anyway, the end result is they both had roughly the same amount of money, 1 point something million. All right? That shows you the impact of starting early. I tried to implant that in my kids. Start early. I don't care if you're not saving much of anything. Start early. And that doesn't mean if you haven't done anything, don't start. Start. Start where you're at. Where you're at is great. But the point of this is when we do a little something, but we do that little something over time, it makes a huge difference. Again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. We're all wound around our axle about doing big things, leaps of progress, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll make some leaps here and there, but it's the incremental baby steps every single day that really make the difference. They may not feel like much, but that's what makes the difference, okay? So I can't express that enough, all right? So what I'd like you working on today is deciding, you can pick a couple of them, what the heck? Things from your history, interactions from your history that did not go well because that was this kind of a thing. The fight escalated, you started out with accusations and assumptions and thought you knew what the other person meant and didn't bother checking it out with them and said some provocative things back and blah, blah, blah. And maybe it ended a friendship. Maybe it ended a marriage. Maybe it just created a Cold War that goes on to this day. I can't tell you the number of people who say, yeah, I got a brother. I haven't talked to him in 15 years. So I want you mining up a couple of those kinds of circumstances that we're going to put through this process. So our next part of the process would be the interpreting of the overt message. So we'll take those circumstances that you're coming up with and we're going to start working on them. All right, we're going to walk them through this process and see what we end up with. So that's it for today. I hope it kind of piqued some curiosity and some interest and some excitement in this process. And again, I'm going to keep flowing in the stuff from the Tony Robbins stuff because he is just amazing. He is just amazing. I love his stuff. And I remember being in my 30s and having little kids and reading his stuff and going, oh, this is good, this is good. And at that point, you're so overwhelmed and exhausted, you can hardly function, or I couldn't. But anyway, I still put little pieces into place. And here we are. Here we are. So have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you are capable of far more than you think you are. Love you all. Bye.